So this is one of the things I'm making with the cup of tea suite, and it's a double fold fun fold card. So just to show the card again, we have two flaps that fold, and then there's space in the middle to write whatever you want in terms of your message. It looks really complicated, and it isn't, because I don't do complicated, but I do love fun folds. So let's go through the bits you need. We start off with a usual card base. I'm using the new Tahitian Tide colour for this one. That one I've just shown you was in Orchid Oasis. So your card base is your usual card base, 21 by 14.8, scored at 10.5. And then you want another piece. See if I can get all my pieces right. I've got some of them ready. So this piece, this is to make the other side panel, and this piece is 12 by 7.4, scored at 1.5. And then you need a piece of DSP for the back of the card, and that measures 10 by 40, 10 across by 14.3. And I've used the new in color DSP to match with that. Then you also need the piece that you cut. This I've used the contour die. You could just cut a normal rectangle. The piece I used to cut out the contour die, which is just a bit bigger than this, is 12 by 8.5. The rectangle, you could just cut a plain rectangle, and you'd need to make it 8 by 11 would make the right size rectangle to fit at the back. So then you also need two more pieces of the Tahitian Tide, or whichever colour you decide to use, and these bits are 7 by 10.3, and you need two of them. You also need some white panels to go on top, and the white panels to go on top of this are 6.5 by 9.8. And then finally, a panel that's going to go in for your sentiment to match the contour panel or the plain rectangle you've cut. And that piece is 7 by 10.3. So those are all the pieces you want. To decorate, you could use stamps, or you could use bits of DSP. And I've used two different patterns of DSP. And I've got two cut in each pattern. And they are 7 by 10, those sizes. So those are all the bits you need. Let me show you how to put it together. So, I need my trimmer. Here we go. So to make the card, it looks quite difficult. It isn't at all. All we're going to do is put it in the trimmer, and you want to cut half. Now this side is 14.85 if we're being absolutely exact. So we want to go 7.5 down, okay, or 7.4. It is actually 7.4 down. So we put it in the trimmer, and then we're going to cut from the far edge of the card to the score line. So I'm just going to have to stand up and perhaps get my head a little bit. Oh no, my head's above the camera, so that's okay. Just so I make sure that when I'm cutting it, I can line up the little line at the side of the trimmer with the score line. So I know I've cut to that score line. So that's the first cut you need. Then we take off this top panel. So I'm going to line the score line up the trimmer, and I'm from where I was, and I can line it up using the wonderful little lines on these trimmer blades, and I can simply cut up, and that gives us our card base. So that is a scrap piece. Unfortunately, it's not big enough to make here because you need it to be that size. So that's a scrap piece you could use for something else. That's why you need this piece, which is why it's slightly bigger. It's 12 by 8.5 instead of being 10. So 10.5 there. So you want to score it, which I've already done here, at 1.5 centimeters. So how we put it together is very simple, and I would put it together before you start. So we're going to fold that piece in and give it a really good bone fold, because we want it to have a good crease on there. Now, when you stick it to the base card, you want to stick it so that the flap is on the front of the card here, because I just think that looks neater. Otherwise, you'd see it on the back of the card, which isn't nice. But here it's going to be covered by the DSP. So I am just going to, might use some tape actually. So I'm going to use my fast fuse actually, if I can get it to work. Come on. So I'm going to line it up really carefully, and I'm going to use the lines on my, you can use grid paper or my board in this case. Make sure it's nice and straight on the lines, both sides, and then I can just fold that over, fix it down. So that will now close over. Now you might find, and it looks like I might with this piece, it's a little bit tight coming over. So I'm just going to take a fraction off that on the trimmer. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to line it up. This is a good tip if you need to take a fraction off anything. You've got the cutting groove, and then there's sort of a little bit of plastic each side. And if you line up something with the very far edge of the plastic, when you cut, you take off the tiniest little sliver. And that's going to be perfect for my card. So now when I fold that over, this folds down really easily. So that is the basis of the card. And then it's a matter of putting it together. And this is why I've cut all these things first, because I didn't want you to be waiting around. So we can talk amongst ourselves while I just put it together. So I want a big piece of DSP on the back, which, as you'll see, just then covers up the fold that we made in the card there. So you can't really see it. I'm going to line that up as much as I can. There we go. That's straight. So put that on the back. And then this goes on the back, and it needs to be in the middle. So again, I'm going to use some Tombow, so I've got a little bit of wriggle room if I need it. Because I've used Fast Fuse, you've had it. Oh, now my Tombow's running out, just to add to everything, of course. Seem to have to get a new one in the middle of a live, but there we go. So I'm going to put that roughly in the middle. I'm just going to use the pattern of my eye just to line it up. You could actually make some pencil marks if you wanted and rub them out later, but I'm happy to go with what it looks like, so that's fine. And it's important to stick this one down first. I'm actually going to do some stamping on that before I put it in. Same on these other pieces, but I just want to show you how you line everything up. So the first thing I'm going to do is stick the other bits of DSP on these side panels. So I'm going to have my line ones actually. I could use the same pattern as on the back there. I'm not, I'm using the reverse of this paper. I like a bit of contrast. I quite like these lines. I wouldn't use them on the front of a card, but I think they're perfect for something like inside a flap. Could leave this plain if you want. I just don't like seeing plain things on my cards, so you don't need these two if you don't want them, but I just like it. I think it adds a little bit more to the card, and it's very simple to do. So those are put those in that side. Then I also want to put my dotted paper on the outside of each of these flaps. Again, I could have used this colour, but I decided I didn't want to. I used this on the other card I showed you actually for the inside piece. Isn't it always the case though when you get DSP that they're always double-sided DSP, and I always like, for some DSPs I like both sides, and then I really struggle in which one to use, because I love the checkered pattern on this side and I love the dots, and I can't use both at once without using two different pieces of paper. I wish they were on separate sheets, and then I could use them all more, because I don't really like those, but they're useful for here. I can get it used up here. I'm not that bothered about the flowers or the line one, but I love this one. So there we go. So there's the card put together, the basis. The only other technical bit is putting these things on. So I'm going to show you before I start all my stamping, because I can put one of these panels on first to show you how you do it. So to put the panels on, you're going to fold over the piece that needs the panel stuck to it, and then you're going to place the panel so that it is exactly where you want it. And the beauty of this contour die is it's got this gorgeous stitched inner edge, which gives you the exact lines where you can line up against. Yeah, if you see that. Yeah, that really helps. So I know I need to put my tape needs to go from here down. So I either do it by eye, or you could actually if you wanted, you could actually put pencil marks on here. So I know it needs to be there. So I'm actually going to hold it with my thumb so I know where it needs to be. And then I'm going to line it up with my grid. So I know I need to do this lower bit here. So again, I might use Fast Fuse because I don't want this to be moving when it's down. So I'm just going to put it on in the area I need. and I need it to go just up to there. Lovely. Bits of glue everywhere. So now, how I do it, I'm lining it up with my top. I've got to lean over a little bit, so apologies if my head gets in the way. Line it up with my top dotted line of my contour dyed piece, and then I can drop it in place, and I know that's going to be exactly in the right place. And this is why I'm using fast fuse rather than tumbo, because this time I don't want it to move. Once I've stuck that down, I do not want it to move. And then you do the front one in exactly the same way. You work out where it needs to go. Do it quickly because I do know roughly where this needs to go after making this a couple of times. So I need to put it, it's not quite the lower third and it's not the lower half. It's less than a half and more than a third. So you just have to mark it to work it out. It's about the lower 2/5, I think, roughly. So again, I'm going to line that up, drop it in place, and then we know it's right. So that's my recommendation, is to use fast fuse to make sure when you drop it in place, it's not going to stay and not move, because you don't want those to move. They need to cover each other and cover each other up, so you can see that. Yeah, so there's no, you can't see the panels beneath, because it should look like that. It should be a surprise to somebody. Oh my goodness, you know, we want them to be really surprised by that. Oh, there's Geraldine too. So that's how to put that card together, which is fun. I'm now going to go away and stamp the next bits and then just stick them on, and I'll show you the finished card in just a minute, because you don't really need to see me stamping. So I was going to show you how I was putting it together, but I've forgotten. I've put it together. So all I've done, just to describe, I've stamped on the front one of the smaller white panels, one of the 6.5 by 9.8 centimetre panels, stamped what I wanted on. I've added a couple on dimensionals. Remember that the only panel you can put anything with any depth will be the front one, because the others have to be flat. So for this one, I've stamped and die cut a cup, stamped the other one direct on the panel, stamped the little tea bag shape, and then put a flower in the middle. I've discovered the flower fits in, which is really nice. And I put a little loop of twine just behind. There isn't room to put a bow, it would be too deep, but that just worked quite well. And then for the final panel, I've just stamped my sentiment and left myself plenty of room to write, there we go, to write my greeting, whatever I want to put in. So that's how we finished the card. I've got 2 of them now, 2 little cards I can send off to people. So I hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, I could use To You From Me. I wrote that on that one. I could do that on there. Might do that. We'll see. So I hope you enjoyed that. All the instructions are on the blog. So if you couldn't remember what I said at the start of the video, please go there to find all the written instructions. And I'll see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and please go along to the blog, sign up for my email list, and then you'll know about all the future craft alongs I do. Bye for now.